Yeshua, your King of praise. Shalom, everyone. This is Messianic Rabbi Buzz Tremé, the Jew teaching you. Welcome to our Bible study. Yeshua, you are the way. Yeshua. All of that was a part of the Mosaic Law. The people lived by it. Remember what the Paul says in the New Testament, quoting the Old Testament, whatever it is, Zechariah, Haggai, whatever. But he says that anybody who does these things, the commandments, anybody who does it is going to live by them. So if you set out to do them, guess how you're going to live? You're going to live by them. So your life is always thinking about the 613 commandments. And you had to have the Levitical priesthood, or none of it worked. And eventually you had a temple, and now with it gone, you're really in a bind, huh? So to keep the commandments was really hard, so you had to live by them. The good news was, and they understood it over time, is that there's concessions for sin. So if I do transgress, well, then I just go and do the penalty for transgression. I pay. If you got money, you were really way ahead of everybody. You could buy an offering, get yourself out of the jam. As long as the payment was made for your sin, see? It's like I never made it. All that time, though, they were operating under a system that Paul would later speak of and say, it wasn't even based on faith. And without faith, you cannot please God. So you have a system that was designed to hold the people. It was never designed, God never said you're going to be righteous if you keep this thing. Never told them that. But they assumed they could achieve righteousness. However, every year they had to start the whole system over again. They had to have the Day of Atonement, Feast of Tabernacles, and let's do it one more time. Undoubtedly, that one didn't work as well. And so they were back to sacrificing for the next year. So Paul then says, don't you see, that was a system that was aimed at leading the people to Yeshua and his new covenant. If you die to the marriage law, as Paul teaches, I move around a lot. I'm sorry, my cameraman's fighting me. He's fighting the fight to keep up with me. But if you're married to the law, if you're married to your wife, the marriage law is instilled here. You're bound to it, okay? You're married to somebody. The whole thing, it's a covenant, you're in it. Paul says it's the same way if you're under the law. When you are in the law, you're a part of it. The only way out is how? Death. So that's the way marriage was designed. The only way out is one of the persons die, and what does it say? If one of the persons dies, you're no longer bound to the marriage covenant because the marriage partner's gone. The covenant stops. He says, and so it is to whoever is married to the law. And so you die to it that you might then find another groom, another husband. That's what Paul teaches in the New Testament. And the idea is that my wife distracted me chasing a flying wasp, a horsefly, man. Okay, anyway, but so understand then that, see, so divorce was allowed under the law because, what said Yeshua? What Yeshua said? What did he say? Because of your hard hearts, God gave you that concession. Rather than you stay and be miserable your whole life, you and her, because that's not marriage. He says, then write a certificate of divorce to her so she can remarry, freeing her from that bond. So divorce was never something God wanted, But when the people who are involved in marriage have hard hearts, well, you got to do something to save their lives. And so to keep peace, because God said it's not good for people to be alone. Isn't that great? And so it is, we marry the Lord. Right now we're waiting for the final marriage, you know, the ceremony, but we've received the dowry, the deposit. You know, the groom would give a gift for the bride, and she held on to that gift. Today we give a ring usually, engagement ring. And so when she's betrothed, she's engaged. And the way it was in the Bible, she had the gift. Well, the New Testament pattern is we get that, the best of the Lord. We get a portion of Himself, His Spirit. And it's the deposit guaranteeing the marriage to come. And when the marriage to come, whoa, it's going to be something, huh? We get whole new bodies and everything is, what a package. Anyway, the Bible is full of all of this. So, back here in this covenant, especially more than all the others, the Mosaic covenant has all of this ritual, which in itself was just that. But later, the New Testament writers would say, for instance, Hebrews 10:1, the law was not the reality. Also Colossians 2:17, the law was not the reality. It was a figure of the reality to come. Hebrews 10:1 said the law was a shadow of the reality. If you've got a shadow of a guitar, because there's one hanging from a string or something, and the light's shining, and you've got the shadow, say, look, I've got the guitar. Guess what you have? A shadow of a guitar. So the people had the shadow of the reality. So Yeshua came and said, how is it you guys don't know who I am? You study the law which speaks of me. And they all go, what does he mean? And he goes, you'll never know. And he left them in their sins. However, those who were weak and those who were humble, those who were hungry to know God, they admitted, we can't figure these things out. We don't know what to do. And he goes, follow me and you shall live forever. That's how this thing works. So if you're haughty, guess where you are in God's eyes? Way off. If you're full of pride and trusting your own strength and skills and abilities and looking for self-glory, guess what? You're pushed way back from God. Dangerous place to be. But if you will admit to Him on a daily basis, I am a blundering idiot. I fail. I try to be the best I can, but I know I am not good enough. He says, that qualifies you to be good enough. Because your weakness is His opportunity for strength. Is that great? So, as I taught on this, the fascination, especially with the Mosaic covenant, people today will get born again and immediately they're fascinated. I didn't wear my talit or my kippah or, anything like that. I do that lots of times when I teach. But very often people see that and go, God, that is so cool. You mean I can have one? Yeah. You can have a shofar. Yeah. You can do, I can sound it in the service. I can wear the talit. Yeah. You can do any of these things. But don't lock yourself into bondage to it to where you can't worship God if you don't have it. That's where the goof up comes. So people become fascinated with it. These are the 5 shuns. Shun means people are fascinated with the ritual. Fascination comes and then what? Participation. And that's what we do. But I also teach the balance to this thing. Enjoy the ritual because it's a lesson in it. It teaches a lot. It opens people's eyes, especially the Jews. They start seeing the fulfillment that Yeshua is and does to the law that they were placed under. So you have participation, but what happens after you, say you've been serving the Lord in a Messianic congregation and you go there every Shabbat and you worship the Lord and there's so much ceremony. I'm not against this. This must be. The Gentiles must turn to their Jewish roots so that the Jews can look to the Gentiles and say they've got our Messiah and be saved. The Romans 11 says that will happen. So the thing is, as we do so, turning to our Jewish roots, we have to be careful that we don't go into Judaism, because Judaism was a shadow of the fulfillment in the New Covenant. Correct? So after you become fascinated with it, you participate in it, and after some time, the joy of wearing a talit, the joy of the shofar, may not be as strong. Do you know, when I got baptized, it was major in my life, because I knew what it meant, and I knew I was making a full statement and pledge to God. I knew how I felt so clean when I came out of that water. The next time there was a baptism, guess who was there? Buzz was. And I went and got baptized again. And boy, I came out there jumping and shouting. And it was about 6 months later, they had another baptism. And I got baptized so many times. I was really clean. And finally, a pastor says, "Brother, you can't do this every time we have baptism." I said, "Why not? I know how good it feels." And he says, "But you just do it one time, you know." He said, "Now, if you get tangled up with sin and later in life you feel like you need to rebaptize, you can. But it's not something that you just, it's not biblical to do it every time there's a baptism, you know." I said, "Bummer, you know." So then I became a minister so I could baptize people, but I could still get in the water with them. That's a joke.
Show us your